Hello, Steve White, Steve Arts 89, Trek Boy 89. Well, Jessie Gender has finally turned on modern Star Trek, New Trek as we call it. Yeah, I was kind of shocked. I'm getting ready for my Star Trek The Original Series marathon, and I was just pulling out all my original series toys and things. I needed something to play in the background, so I put one of Jessie Gender's videos on because they're usually long-winded and overly produced. And I was kind of shocked that this one, it's called Star Trek Strange New Worlds, it's a centrist space fantasy, and I thought, that sounds critical. Because she's an anarchist and an extremist, and I mean, I like her, but she's just way over the top with most things. And I thought, yeah, she's going to have a little bit of a problem with modern Star Trek becoming conservative, which it seems to be doing. I did my own video about that. It was much shorter than hers. This one is like 3 hours and 52 minutes. I'm only like 10 minutes in. But I'm kind of shocked because she just starts trashing modern Star Trek, especially Strange New Worlds, for being like just a generic, safe parody of Star Trek. Although she doesn't use the word parody, but she does go into it basically just pulling up tropes and just doing all these little genre odes and things that are meant to be fun, which would usually be a throwaway escapist sort of episode in a full season of 22 to 26 episodes. But when you've only got 10 episodes, you can't be spending 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 episodes, by my count, from season 3, doing like fun, weird genre stuff instead of actually telling Star Trek stories, which should be important moral stories using allegory, 23rd, 24th, 25th century allegory to tell stories that are happening now. Instead, they're avoiding any contemporary stories or relevance and being like very conservative. The gay people all seem to have disappeared, and everyone seems to be in heteronormative relationships, and it all seems to be about the relationships in the family. And we've got religion, we've got supernatural elements, we've got evil, good and evil, villains, monsters with no humanity, redeeming qualities, or motivations that can be justified or understood, which Star Trek always had protagonists that just needed to be understood, to deal with, or beat. And yeah, it's just kind of shocking to see her turn on modern Star Trek, because up until I think the second season of Strange New Worlds, she was all rah 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 gung ho for Star Trek, because, well, for the most part she was paying attention to Discovery, which had gay and trans characters, which of course was what she wanted to hear about, because that's her world. So of course that's what Star Trek should be about, and it shouldn't matter that the rest of the majority of the fandom aren't trans people and don't really need trans characters and trans stories. They're not that relevant to the general public, and the reality is we're a minority and we should be included, but the idea of us being the center of everything is just a narcissistic fantasy, really, because it's sort of happened with some genres and some shows and some movies, but it's not really realistic. If you're going to do something based on our community, or a film for our community, that's fine, or a TV series for our community, but to make all modern contemporary series about minorities, it's not working, because the majority, even though they usually have all the representation, they've kind of gotten used to it, and that's what they want to see. They're not interested in our stories, like we're not interested in their stories. But Jessie Gender is just so blinded to her own narcissism and self-importance and whatever that is, that she can't really see that. So it's going to be interesting to watch. Like I said, I've only watched 12 minutes of this video. It's a 3 hour and 52 minute video. I'm hoping she doesn't turn around and find a way to redeem the show, and this is a real long, hard analysis of what's happening with Star Trek. So what's happening with modern Star Trek is CBS is bending the knee, because Kurtzman doesn't care about minorities and trans people or gay people. He just thought that was the audience, and that's the only part of Star Trek he understood or saw any value in, because he never liked Star Trek. He never watched it. He was a Star Wars fan. He thought Star Trek was stupid and preachy. And the reason why he was brought onto the project, which was originally the films, was to counter the Star Trek fan that was Robert Orci. Orsi, or whatever his name is. He was the Star Trek fan, and Kirsten was the non-Star Trek fan. Between the two of them, they were supposed to create a movie that everyone could watch, fans and non-fans. And then when they fired Orsi and they gave Star Trek over to Kurtzman, they gave it to literally someone who hated the show, didn't understand it, thought it was a mistake and had no audience. And his whole approach to Star Trek has been, it's a dead franchise, we want to make money out of the IP, so let's make it into every other form of genre or science fiction show, and maybe we'll sort of get the whole general audience in pieces or something. Like, his just approach has been totally wrong for Star Trek. And now that, you know, the corporate overlords are conservative and so is in power and, you know, swinging his weight around, one of the things that had to change was Star Trek, because it was woke. So they had to edit as much woke out of season 3 and 4 as they could, and insert things like Pike praying and religion, and basically turning aliens into monsters, and just really turning it in more conservative and having, like I said, prayer and heteronormative relationships and no gay characters. All the characters seem to be preoccupied with finding a partner rather than actually exploring space, and, you know, they're just doing parodies of shows and playing with genres instead of telling actual science fiction allegory stories that actually talk about today. So, and of course, biological essentialism and all these other things that are creeping in. And I sort of was really excited at first when I heard that Skydance was buying Star Trek, buying Paramount and in effect Star Trek, because I thought there'll be a regime change. At the very least, there'll be a regime change. We'll get a new Star Trek, or we'll get a new focus in modern Star Trek. But it never occurred to me that a conservative company could buy the franchise and turn it into some, you know, colonizers in space, you know, spreading white supremacy everywhere, which is what Star Trek is spiraling into. And I think that's where Jessie's going with this, because she's had the same realization I've had. So yeah, just had to talk about that for a minute. But I just the fact that she's turning on her beloved Star Trek, modern Star Trek, because she didn't care how bad elements were or what things other Star Trek fans, you know, cared about that were being thrown out the window and desecrated. So long as it had trans people, she thought it was the best thing ever. And now the trans people are gone, she's looking at it and going, yeah, this is not good. So yeah, I had to comment on that. It was kind of funny to see. I will watch the whole thing, because it's for the next few hours through my days. It's going to be sort of my background noise for the next, because I always need stuff on while I'm doing other things. But I'm going to go. Feel free to share, like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you thought of Jessie Gender's video, if you watched the whole thing. And modern Star Trek and what's happening with it. It is just a joke. It is a parody of itself. It has no teeth anymore, because, you know, unfortunately, the original Star Treks, they all went under the radar. Conservative people watched it and didn't know they were being educated, because they were too stupid to understand allegory, so they got it up, you know, subconsciously, I guess. And it was thought-provoking. It made people think about these situations when they wouldn't think about them if they were told in contemporary terms. So, yeah, new Star Trek, unfortunately, Kurtzman let the cat out of the bag and said, we're woke. The bad people are all Trumpers, and, you know, we're going to do contemporary issues. We have contemporary issues in Star Trek now, where we're just directly dealing with things to make it really clear which side we're on, and you're not welcome here if you're a Trump supporter and you're a conservative. And now Star Trek is being seen for sort of what it was, subtly, intelligently. Now, ham-fistedly, it really alienated and really aggravated the conservatives, and it kind of asked for it because it was throwing it right in their face, because that's what Kurtzman thought Star Trek was, or something. I don't know what happened. But now the cat's out of the bag, and Star Trek is one of the enemies of the current regime. And yeah, it's unfortunately, I think we're going to see it totally compromised in the next few years. But we'll see where this goes. I'm going to go. Did I already say that? Yeah. Let me know what you think of Jessie's video, maybe even how it ends, because I haven't gotten to the end yet. I've only got a few minutes in, but I was just so just tickled and fascinated by the idea of her doing an absolute decimation of modern Star Trek because it no longer suits her agenda, and is now becoming the enemy, which is a cruel irony for minorities to see a show like Star Trek being corrupted and turned into the enemy and into a conservative show, which it is happening. And we'll see how they go in season 3 and 4 and 5, because they don't care. Like I said, Kurtzman doesn't care about the audience or stuff. He just wants to make money. That means he has to keep the show on the air. And if that means turning it totally conservative for the current establishment, he'll do it because he has no, it doesn't matter. He just wants to make money out of this IP. And all those people praising him for the diversity didn't realise, that it didn't actually mean anything to him. It was just a tool that didn't pay off in audience numbers, so he just threw it away. But we'll see what happens.